some of the other Dark Lady sonnets that I particularly like. Number 129, just two after this. The expense of spirit in a waste of shame is lust in action, and till action lust is perjured, murderous, bloody, full of blame, savage, extreme, rude, cruel, not to trust, enjoyed no sooner but despised straight, past reason hunted, and no sooner had past reason hated, as a swallowed bait on purpose laid to make the taker mad. Mad in pursuit and in possession so, having and in quest to have, extreme a bliss in proof, and prove it a very woe, before a joy proposed, behind a dream. All this the world well knows, yet none knows well to shun the heaven that leads men to this hell. What's going on there? I will point out that in a 14-line poem, the first 12 lines are a single sentence. And it's really difficult to read that aloud and hit those simple rhymes that it stays within, but you don't get the sense of them. They almost just blur past. Because there is this energy that I was trying to mimic a little bit in the reading that is overwhelming. A kind of slow building thunder, urging you on to the resolution. Now, this is, as I said, one of the Dark Lady sonnets. The Dark Lady introduces a realm of sexuality into these poems that was treated very differently in the earlier ones. Here, I think you can hear an awful lot of sexuality. Lust in action. What is the expense of spirit? That's kind of crucial to understanding, and it's a little bit of a euphemism of the late Renaissance in England. Spirit. Well, spirit is a ghost, but it's something else. A ghost is an essence, right? Yeah, it's the essence of the soul. What would be the essence of the body that could be expended? Again, I would advise everyone to tap into their inner 14-year-old boy, to expense the spirit. When you're alone, in your bedroom, when mom's not home, or at least the door is closed. Now go back and look at that poem again, and think about that long sentence that just drills down and down and down. The expense of spirit in a waste of shame is lust in action, and till action lust is perjured, murderous, bloody, full of blame, is savage, extreme, rude, cruel, not to trust. Enjoyed no sooner but despised straight, past reason hunted, no sooner had past reason hated, as a swallowed bait on purpose laid to make the taker mad, mad in pursuit and in possession so, having an inquest to have extreme. What? Now I know you guys are all too elevated and pure to have the dirty mind. But what do we think this writer, this poet at this moment is doing while he's writing with his right hand, what's he perhaps doing with his left? Yes, this is a poem about masturbation. Now, on the surface, the expense of spirit in a waste of shame is lust in action. It sounds like it's anti-masturbation. But what exactly is the waste? The waste of shame? Maybe. The idea of feeling bad about what everybody does it is a waste. You could argue that it is arguing that doing that is a waste, it's silly, or that feeling bad about it because everybody does it is silly. You could argue that either way, and that's part of the point. Here, this is partially a Dark Lady sonnet and partially a note to the earlier young man who doesn't want to have kids. Because if you don't want to have kids, what's one way to keep that from happening? A little too much time expensing your spirit. But notice how it builds as it goes along, and then just sort of climaxes before a dream proposed, or before a joy proposed behind a dream. The poem releases right there at the end of that sentence. It climaxes. All this the world well knows, yet none knows well to shun the heaven that leads men to this hell. Masturbation is considered a sin by the church. And is that worth anything? All this the world well knows. Everybody knows and everybody does it, yet none knows well to shun the heaven. The heaven is that dream. The heaven is that release that leads men to this hell. Is the hell the dwelling in lust that leads you to masturbation? Or is the hell the feeling of shame about having done it? The poem is playing both sides of that coin. It is uncertain which side it wants to fall down on, because that's the point. It's to prod you into making your own decision. It's to prod you to come to your own moral judgment, independent of what the church or the authorities or society or tradition might have you think. You are meant to come up with your own morality here. Human beings are allowed to do that. This is, in effect, a pushback against church dogma. No different in kind than what Luther was suggesting. And I will point out that this is coming almost a century after Luther. Almost 75 years after the Church of England broke off. And Shakespeare is pointing this out. Shakespeare is dwelling in this area of morality and humanism, of just finding room to say that what does it mean to be a human being? What are we really so worried about in a divine world. If God designed me to have some urges, doesn't that necessarily sanctify those urges to a degree? And even if he didn't, does he really care? But it's incumbent on the individual human being to take a plain reading of his own or her own morality and decide for him or herself where that balance can be struck between a humanist understanding of the universe and a God-ordained and legislated one. So by reading that poem, you get your giggles in, and it's funny. You can laugh at it. Maybe when you're home and alone, you know, like all good joys come when you're home and alone. But you're supposed to think about it and consider the deeper questions being untilled here. And by doing that, you are living out the dream of humanism. By not just following the orders of what has come before, but asserting for yourself the right and the capacity to determine your own universe.